Hey, welcome to my channel. I'm a late diagnosed autistic human being from France living in the UK. I make videos about my own experience as a late diagnosed autistic person. It's really good to film today. I feel like I haven't filmed in a while and I was really missing it. So I finally sat down and pressed record. As you can see from behind me, I thought it would be more fitting to have a fresh, summery ambiance going on in the background, given, you know, the current climate, rather than the usual fire behind me. It's 28 degrees today, and it was the same yesterday, which it is not as hot as in the rest of Europe right now. But to me, it always feels warmer in the UK because of all the air, humidity. It feels very stuffy. It feels very heavy. Like, you know, when there's a thunderstorm, a summer thunderstorm brewing, you can feel that heaviness in the air. It feels, you know, stifling, even though it's not that hot. That's how it feels like for me in the summer in the UK when it gets just a little warmer than usual, just above 25, you know. So I've been like trying my best to keep the house as fresh as possible, opening the windows every morning until 11, and then I close all the windows and I close the blinds, close the door of the living room because it's the coolest room in the house. The worst part definitely is the kitchen, the conservatory. When I was making lunch today, it was like 29 in there. And like at night, as soon as it gets cooler, like past 8, I'll open all the windows again. Like, but desperately trying my hardest to keep the house cool because I cannot function in the heat. I'm just so intolerant to the heat. I mentioned that in previous videos, especially in my video on sensory sensitivities. I'm really sensitive to the heat, and my partner is the same but with cold. So he hates winters, I hate summers. It's a whole thing. Yeah, so the reason why I haven't been filming, I mean, sounds like I haven't posted in weeks. My last video posted maybe a week ago, something like that, but I haven't been filming much these past few days because my partner and I have been in the process of finding a new house. We finally made the decision to move. I mentioned in previous videos that we wanted to move out because we don't have such a great landlord and we don't really feel comfortable in this house, and my partner was kind of you know, wanted some change, and like he was kind of tired of living in the UK. Like we felt like we've done our time here. We wanted to move on, basically. Don't get me wrong, I love the UK, I love England. It was like my dream to come live here, and I've made that dream come true. We've lived here for a total of 5 years in 4 different places. Just to give you an idea of what I want to cover in this video today, I want to give this quick update on my current situation. I wanted to quickly talk about masking in the context of all this. So masking and moving when you're in autistic burnout, unmasking and moving while you're in autistic burnout is kind of the subject of that video. So we've been living in this house for 2 years, over 2 years now, which is the longest we've ever been in the same place, my partner and I. Basically, when we came back to the UK 2 years ago, we had been traveling across Europe for a year, so we hadn't had a place to call home in a while, and I honestly couldn't really take it anymore. I really needed to settle down somewhere and have some stability. I was still, you know, really struggling with my mental health. Well, I always kind of am, but I hadn't, you know, I was still figuring out a lot of things regarding my narcissistic parents, and I hadn't really figured out that I was autistic yet. So I wasn't doing too well mentally, and I felt like I needed that stability to have a place to go home, not have to move all the time to different places. So we kind of hurried back to the UK, and it was it was a real struggle to try and find a place that would take us in the countryside, because up until that point we'd only lived in London, and in London people are used to foreigners, so we didn't have a problem. But here in the countryside, it's a little bit more, people are more suspicious if you're a foreigner, let's say it like that. So we're arriving from abroad, we're foreigners, we had 2 cats, just people weren't really, they were suspicious. It was really hard to find somewhere to live. We didn't have a car, so it was difficult to go do physical viewings, and then whenever we asked to do a virtual viewing, people were even more suspicious and were like, we're only looking for tenants who can come view the house in person, blah blah blah. Anyways, it was a real struggle, and it took us months to find a place, and we were living in Airbnbs in the meantime, and I was really like, I'd had enough. Like, I really needed a place to call home, almost like I didn't care about where we'd end up as long as we had a place for us. And we finally found this house, and it wasn't like a love at first sight kind of situation. I mean, it ticks a lot of our boxes. It's in the Cotswolds, which is a beautiful region. We have a garden. It's a very spacious house over 3 floors, so like ground floor, first floor, second floor. There's plenty of space when my in-laws are visiting. There's plenty of space for an office because my partner works from home. There were a lot of good points, but we weren't super excited about the house itself. We were more excited about the idea of finally being able to settle down. We were willing to maybe disregard or overlook some negative points in order to have our own home. And one of the things we overlooked was our landlord. Now, as I've mentioned, well, I should say our landlady. As I've mentioned in many videos on my channel, I grew up in a toxic family. I have narcissistic parents. In fact, I think that was the subject of my last video, being the autistic only child of narcissistic parents. So I have a lot of narcissistic trauma. I have a lot of childhood trauma from that. That has made me very aware and I'm very good at detecting toxic people, let's put it like that. I can tell really quickly. I don't know what it is. It's almost like I can feel their energy, or I can feel that they're not it must be like micro facial expressions or body language or whatever. I don't know what it is exactly, but it's like an alarm goes off inside me, and I'm like, this person isn't trustworthy, this person is toxic, this person is not being honest right now. Every time I'm right, like, it's crazy, but every time I've had this feeling about someone, they turned out to be an asshole. So I really trust my gut. And so we had this feeling about our landlady, but we thought, it's okay. It's not like we're gonna see her all the time, especially since she's originally from Austria, so she lives in Austria. Boy, were we wrong. So basically, I know you're not supposed to like diagnose people and stuff, but like, we're not the only ones who've had problems with her. The neighbors don't like her, or the previous tenants who lived here didn't really like her either. Even her co-workers don't like her. I know that because she told us herself. She told us herself, actually. And she's horrible to her kids as well. Like, I have like so many anecdotes of like horrible behaviors that she's had, but coming from someone who has parents with cluster B, personality disorders, I'm like 90% sure that she also has a personality disorder. She's basically what you would call a toxic person. So she's very paranoid, she has extreme trust issues, even though we've never done anything wrong, we've always been good tenants. Our previous landlords didn't have a problem with us. except the other toxic one we had, we seem to attract them somehow. Like, we're good tenants, we're respectful, we take good care of things, we are good communicators. She still, like, she always believes that we're doing things behind her back. She's always convinced that we're trying to mess things up. Like, the first year that we were here, she would do like inspections every 3 months or so, and it wasn't just like, you know, casual inspections. Like, she would barge in like we had been hiding things from her, and like she would like get into our personal stuff and open things up. And like many times I got in trouble with her because I was like pushing back. Like, I was like, no, you're not allowed to do this. And then she would threaten me and say things like, well, go talk to a lawyer if you're not happy. And like, she would tell me like, you have real trouble with your communication and stuff like that. Where I was like, I have trouble with my communication? Well, kind of, because I'm autistic, but like, have you looked at yourself? So there were lots of instances like that where she was really toxic. If I didn't have any trauma, if I hadn't had narcissistic parents, I think I would have been, you know, I would have been not fine with it, but I would have handled it a bit better. But the thing is, it triggered my trauma so badly in both of us, actually, because my partner also has trauma because of toxic people. His father, and then what I went through with my parents, he was a witness of and sometimes a victim of it as well. So he's got some trauma from that as well. So we're both like, we both have trauma around like toxic people and stuff. And so both of us had our trauma activated and triggered by our landlady, to a point where like anytime we have any sort of contact with her, anytime we receive a message from her, anytime she visits, it's like really triggering, and like we get like immense amounts of anxiety, and it's really not healthy. And like, if we know that she's coming to do an inspection, like 3 weeks before the inspection, we'll be thinking about it every day and like, you know, feeling very anxious about it. It's the type of person that you can't communicate with. Basically, like, anytime we say something, she takes it the wrong way. She thinks that we are, you know, hiding things from her, or trying to like, and you know, so you reach a point where you're like, it's impossible to communicate effectively with this person. And every time we do, we get attacked, and then it triggers our trauma and stuff. So it's just not a very healthy situation to be in. So we've been wanting to move out for that reason, and also the fact that we live in a cul-de-sac with lots of neighbors. Both my partner and I are autistic, so that's that. And like, it's just also because of our sensory needs, it's not ideal. So we've been wanting to move out for over a year. Honestly, I think my partner wanted to move out as soon as we moved in, but I had struggled so much with our trip, and I had been craving my own home for so long that I was just like, I can't, like, I need this stability, and it really helped me. And then last year we came very close to moving out. We were thinking of moving to Spain. We even went to Spain for a week, and then came back and started preparing the move. And then I was like, I can't do this. And it was around the time that I was starting to figure out that I might be autistic, and I thought, I want to figure it out, I want to get a diagnosis and stuff, and I would rather stay here while that's happening, and then we can think about moving. So we stayed here, and I got my diagnosis and all that, and then my partner got his diagnoses. Here we are. And then I still have my autistic burnout, which meant that even though I wanted to move out, I didn't have the energy, I didn't have the executive functioning skills or the cognitive skills, and I struggled with my mental health a lot. So we postponed it again, and about 3 weeks ago my partner had his birthday, and we kind of decided that day that, okay, we're doing this. And like, the thing that had been holding me back was like, I'm scared that, you know, it's gonna make my burnout worse if we move out, but also the mere fact of being in this house with this landlady doesn't help my mental health either. So we were like trying to weigh the pros and cons, and we came to the conclusion that even though yes, it will probably be a huge effort to move and might not, probably won't help my burnout, it's a better solution in the long run, because I have no idea how long my burnout is gonna last, and I can't just wait forever, especially since our landlady hinted at the possibility that she might sell the house, and like she sent us a very holistic email that was very cryptic with lots of manipulative subtexts that we had to check with ChatGPT to make sure that she wasn't trying to manipulate us, and we kind of dodged that bullet. But she's definitely like hinted at wanting to sell the house potentially, and us having to leave. So we came to a point where we're like, okay, we have to do this, we don't have a choice. We decided to move back to France. Well, I say move back, my partner and I have never lived together in France. I lived in France for 20 years and he's from Switzerland, and we moved in together in England. So this is going to be our first time living together outside of the UK, basically. And the reason why we decided to go back to France is simply because we were kind of tired of the UK, especially my partner wanted a different climate. Out of all the possibilities that we had, it seemed like the best option because it's a country that we're both familiar with. We know the language, we know the culture. It's very fitting for us in terms of the food and the climate and stuff like that, the landscapes. So even though I wasn't super happy about going back to France because I thought I had left that country for good, part of it was because of my trauma with my parents. But also like there are a lot of things I don't like about France, but no country is perfect. But it seemed like the best option for us right now. So we started looking for a house a week or two ago. It happened very quickly. So basically started looking for a house online. Literally, like, I'm not kidding, we searched for one evening, found a few houses we liked, messaged the owners. One of those houses that we really liked got back to us the next day. We talked to the guy on the phone. We organized a virtual viewing the following day. So over WhatsApp, he video called us and walked us through the house, and we could ask questions and stuff. The day after that, we were sending our documents to prove all the usual stuff, like IDs and like proof that we can pay the rent, basically. And then after that, we signed the lease. Now you might be asking, like, what? You signed the lease? You haven't even seen the house in person? Yes. That is because we saw pictures of the house. We did the virtual viewing on video, so we could see that it was legit. We also got to talk to the previous tenant while we were on the video call. We checked that everything was legit. The tenancy agreement was legit. Everything was legit. We were planning to go view the house in person early August, and the landlord was ready for that. He was like, okay, let's do this. What day are you thinking of coming to view the house and stuff? And then because I'm still in burnout, I got really anxious about having to find a cat sitter, having to book flights and trains and stuff like that, and a hotel all at the last minute, and like within 10 days of having to go. So that was very like last minute to me, and that really scared me. One evening I told my partner, I don't think I can do this, and he was like, okay, maybe I'll go alone. And then we figured, you know what, we have a really good idea of the house, like we really seen everything. we know everything we have to know about the house, and it seems like a really good fit for us. It's a big house with a big garden and in a region that we like. I'm not going to say exactly where because it's sensitive information and I don't want, you know, the wrong people to stumble upon that information online. But one thing that I can say is that it's quite far from my native region because I didn't want to be close to my family in any way. And of course they're not gonna know that I moved back to France and stuff like that. And I want to keep that private. So, but like we had all the information we needed about the house, and we knew it was a good fit for us. So because it would have been costly and stressful to go view the house in person, we decided to stick with what we knew and sign the lease as is, because we're gonna stay a maximum of 2 years in that house anyway, because after that our landlord is gonna need the house for his daughter, so it's gonna be 2 years max, and then we were planning on buying a house after that anyway. So I can't believe how quickly it went and how smooth it was, and to be dealing with a trustworthy, like, healthy human being for once was such a relief from our current landlady. I can't even explain it. To be able to communicate effectively with someone without them constantly thinking that you're trying to attack them, or like you're constantly planning something, or like, it's such a relief. Yeah, so I can officially say since yesterday that we are the new tenants of this new house, and we're, well, this tenancy starts on the 1st of September, but this tenancy here has to end on the 14th because our tenancy agreement says it has to end on the day before the next rent payment. So there's going to be a 2-week overlap, which is often the case with these kinds of things, but I can't believe it happened so quickly. And I'm so happy that we found a new house that we love with a landlord who's not a crappy person, who's not toxic, who's not going to trigger our trauma all the time. I can't even express how thankful I am, and I can't believe it happened so quickly. I mean, I keep repeating the same things, but I'm still like processing it. But that means that we have to plan the move in about a month, and there's a lot of things to consider because we're moving abroad, obviously, so we have to take the cats with us, obviously, and there's just a lot of things to figure out before the move. So that's why I've been quite busy with all that, and also the heat didn't help. I've been working on packing and planning and writing tons of emails and stuff like that and doing research. And so I also wanted to make this video to say that I might be less active on YouTube over the course of the month of August, maybe the first part of September, because I'll be very busy with the move. Doesn't mean that I'm not going to make any videos. I might post less often, just so you're not surprised. So yeah, I'm very happy that we found a new house. I can't wait to leave this place and not have to deal with that landlady anymore. She's been a real nightmare, honestly. And yeah, so that was the big announcement that I wanted to make, is I'm moving back to France. I didn't think I'd say that. I moved out of France 7 years ago now. It was in 2017, which is crazy. So obviously I'll start making more videos again when I'm in the new house. So that's exciting. I'm really excited. Obviously it's been difficult to handle all of that while being in burnout still, especially with the heat. Basically these last few days I've been really trying to save my energy, but like I always end up absolutely exhausted in the evening. Today, because it's like the warmest day that we've had yet, I decided to not do anything this afternoon and rest and film this video, stay in the cool living room, and rest a little bit. And I did some packing this morning. I try to do the more physical stuff in the mornings because that's when I have the most energy, and that's when it's the coolest. And then in the afternoon I try to rest and do more of the administrative side of the move, so stuff I can do from my phone. So yeah, I'm taking a bit of a rest today because I don't want to make my burnout worse. That's like my biggest fear with this move. But also I have to say it's done really good things for my mental health, having this new thing to look forward to, this new change. Obviously it's very stressful, but it's also very positive, and I'm really looking forward to it. So I'm really motivated. I really want to do all the things. It's just that my body keeps reminding me that I can't do as much as I'd like to. So I try to take breaks. I try to stay hydrated and rest. But yeah, it's not been easy. This whole process of looking for a house and doing viewings and stuff also reminded me of not reminded me, but like made me very aware of like the struggles of unmasking. I made a short a few days ago where I was saying that I had a virtual viewing, for this house, our new house, where I felt the need to mask a lot. And I've also watched the latest video by Courtney Mermaid. I don't remember her name exactly, but like she's an autistic content creator from Canada. She was talking about all the backlash she got from coming out as autistic online and all the struggles she's had unmasking. And she was saying how she tried unmasking and then had to revert back to masking because unmasking made things way worse for her. I guess that's a less glamorous aspect of unmasking that we don't necessarily hear about, or we tend to focus on the positive aspects of unmasking, finally being able to be yourself and stuff. I related a lot to what she said because I feel like for some of us, given our circumstances or just our own specific autistic traits, it can be really difficult to unmask sometimes. Not so much that it's hard to do, but although it can be, but that it's not received well by society. I've been thinking about that a lot because, for example, in the context of this move, I thought, especially when we were supposed to view the house in person. At one point we thought we were gonna go view the house in person, as I said, in August, and like I had a whole conversation with my partner where I was like, this is gonna be very difficult for me because we're supposed to meet our landlord and his daughter and possibly the previous tenant, the current tenant. So that was a lot of people to meet all at once, and I thought, with my burnout and stuff, it's gonna be really difficult. And I was really dreading it, and I was talking to my partner. I was like, should I let people know about my autism? Should I wear my badge that says I'm autistic? Should I not say anything? But then if I don't say anything, then I won't be as comfortable unmasking, or I'll feel more self-conscious. But then if I do say something, then I might be faced with, uninformed stereotypes and cliches and stuff that I just don't want to hear, that might trigger me, and then I'm not going to feel good for the rest of the interaction. So I was just like, I didn't know what to do, especially since in France there's like virtually no awareness when it comes to autism and neurodivergence. Not that there's a lot of that in the rest of the world, but like France is particularly behind, especially when I look at even like the content creators, autistic and neurodivergent content creators in France, for example. There aren't that many of them. And you can tell that some of them aren't as educated on the subject as most of the British and American content creators that I watch, and there's just a lot more stigma and stuff. Like, you can really feel it. And I know that France is the country that diagnoses autism the least. I've mentioned that many times before. I'm not surprised. Like I said, growing up, I didn't know anyone who was like officially diagnosed autistic, so they either weren't diagnosed or they were, but like it was kept a secret because it was something shameful or whatever. So that's kind of the state of that country. So I was thinking about all that and like feeling kind of depressed because I was like, will I ever be able to... Oh, there's a single hair that's like tickling my back. Hang on. Where are you? Autistic sensory struggles, whatever. So yeah, I was kind of depressed. I was like, will I ever be able to unmask in France and like, or anywhere? And like, I was like trying to imagine realistic interactions with people, especially because France is a very social country. Here in the UK, people kind of keep to themselves, which is something I really like. It's a more Nordic approach, I guess. Kind of like in Scandinavia, where people like stay in their own little bubbles and they respect other people's bubbles as well, which I enjoy as an autistic person. Whereas in France, it's more of a southern type of culture where people are always socializing, always talking to each other, even talking to strangers. Here it doesn't really happen. There's a real culture of like neighborhood parties and things like that, and like it's a real part of the culture to socialize, you know. And being an introvert or being less sociable or being autistic or whatever is seen as a negative thing in France. It's seen as a character flaw, if you will. And you're very quickly labeled as weird. So yeah, I've been kind of nervous about that because I know that there's gonna be a lot more expectation to socialize in France. Thankfully, our new house is kind of secluded. It's in a city, but it's kind of like on the outskirts of the city a little bit, and it's a detached house, and it stands on its own plot, its own land, if you will. So there's garden all around the house, and there's 4 walls around the garden. It's like the most autistic house you can think of, basically. And there's no one that can... How can I say that? I'm missing the expression in English, but like there's no vis-a-vis, as we say in French, meaning like no one can like look at us from their house. Pretty isolated, which I'm really looking forward to that, because here, whenever you go into the garden, whenever you leave the house, there's always neighbors, there's always people who can see you, who might talk to you, even though they don't really try to engage with us anymore because they've figured out that we weren't very sociable. But anyway, we're not gonna have any of that in the new house, so that's great. But I just know that, you know, as soon as you go to a cafe, as soon as you do anything basically out of the house, there's people talking to you. And it's not that I don't like it. It's not that I don't like people. It's just very stressful for me because I have huge amounts of social anxiety, and I know that it's gonna require a lot of masking because I'm not at a point yet where I can unmask in those situations. And I'm just nervous about that because it was one of the things that I didn't like so much about living in France and that I liked better here. Culturally, I feel much more British than I feel French. So yeah, I've been thinking about all that, and like when we're gonna meet our new landlord and stuff, I'm just very nervous. And that's what Courtney was saying in her video. She was saying how for some of us, our autistic traits, our natural, you know, behaviors are seen as unpleasant by neurotypicals. And I do think that, you know, we're all different, and I do think that some autistic people. I'm really like walking on eggshells here because I don't want to say anything that might be misinterpreted, but I do think that some autistic people have an easier time unmasking, either because of their gender, their skin color, their social, economic status, you know, the country they live in and stuff. I do think it might be easier to unmask for someone who, let's say, is a very bubbly and very expressive, because not all of us have like a flat affect and monotone voice. I do, but not all of us do. And so I do feel like it's easier for autistic people who are naturally very bubbly and outgoing and friendly and very expressive, than for those of us who are naturally more like neutral and are not very kind of expressionless and don't talk much. Like, obviously it's going to be harder to unmask for us because our natural behaviors, our artistic traits are undesirable. They're unpleasant to people. I know that when I'm not masking really hard, and as I've mentioned many times, I'm not very good at masking. But even when I try, when I try really, really hard and I'm really not myself, people tend to find me more friendly than when I'm myself, when I'm more unmasked or I'm struggling to mask, where people just don't really know what to make of me. They don't know what I'm about. They think there's something wrong with me, or that I have something against them, or just they can't really figure me out, and so they treat me in a weird way, because it's almost like I'm an alien to them. I don't know, it's a real struggle. And so the other day I was doing the virtual viewing for the house. Before the call, I was kind of joking about it with my partner. I was like, hey, I'm gonna put my mask on for this one because I really want us to get the house and stuff. And I realized during the call that I was really, really masking a lot. Part of it was deliberate. Like, I had control over it. I could have unmasked more if I wanted to, but I found myself feeling the need to mask really hard. And what I mean by that is I forced myself to have a pleasant facial expression. I forced myself to smile more, and I forced myself to say things even when I didn't feel like saying anything, and just trying to come across as more friendly. And it's always about making the other person, making the neurotypical feel comfortable with us, And afterwards I was like, the call lasted about 40 minutes, and afterwards I was like, I masked so hard for this call, just to make sure that the guy would like us and give us the house, and it felt disingenuous. It felt like I wouldn't be able to get far being myself, and like I have to hide who I am in order for people to trust me. And like it takes so much energy, and it's so stressful and honestly depressing to be masking so much, to be hiding who you are. And I really resonated with Courtney's video in the sense that, I really feel like my natural autistic traits are just undesirable, and unmasking means being constantly misunderstood by people, being constantly misjudged by people. Frankly, it makes certain things inaccessible. My partner, for example, who's also autistic, who's better at masking than I am, he has a great career. He is able to make friends a lot more easily than I am. People find him likable, people find him friendly, people immediately like him, I can't do any of that. It's almost like I'm condemned to struggle with work and struggle with making friends, and people will, until they get to know me a bit better, they don't have this initial thing of like, wow, she's so friendly, she's so cool. Like, most of the time people don't really know what to think of me, you know? And it really leaves me feeling like, indeed, there's no way I can unmask with everyone all the time. It's just not possible. Unlike when I meet my landlord in person to get the keys for the house, I already know I'm gonna be putting on a smile, probably changing the tone of my voice and curating what I say and not say, forcing myself to get into positions that are uncomfortable and not fidget visibly or stim visibly, pretend like I'm not as anxious and tired as I am, and all these things that make up masking, you know? I already know I'm gonna have to do this, because if I don't, I'm gonna feel really self-conscious. Oh, and I forgot forcing myself to look people in the eye. If I don't do that, I'm gonna feel really self-conscious. It's gonna make me even more socially anxious, and people aren't gonna have a good first impression of me, or they're gonna be like, huh, she looked quite different on the phone call, you know, on the video call, and then they're gonna be kind of like suspicious of me or not really know what to make of me, you know. And I know I could just think like, who cares, right? And I hope I get to that point one day. Maybe with age, with more maturity, more wisdom, I'll get to a point where I'm like, I don't care anymore what people think. I hope I get to that point one day where I can just unmask all the time and not care what people think. But right now, where I'm at in life right now, I'm not there yet. I still very much care about what people think, which makes sense. I mean, if I didn't care what people thought, I wouldn't be masking in the first place, you know? It's just really tough. I think sometimes the conversation around masking in the autistic community is very oversimplified. We often talk about high masking people and low masking people as if it was that easy. But in my experience, it's more about how efficient your masking skills are. Because I consider myself a high masking person. I score around 150 on the cat Q test, which is really high, but I'm not very successful at it. I don't pass as neurotypical, if you will. I still look very awkward. It's the worst situation to be in, because I put a lot of effort into masking for very little results, so it's not worth it almost, you know? It makes just a little bit of a difference, enough of a difference that I keep doing it, you know? What I'm trying to say is the results I get from masking don't match the effort I put into it, so it feels like I'm wasting my energy, you know? Whereas some people are high masking, but they're also good at it, you know, and they can pass as neurotypical. And I'm not saying it doesn't take a toll. Like, the toll on the mental health is the same for every high masking autistic, but there's also the social toll of being successful or unsuccessful at masking, you know? Like being high masking and suffering the consequences on your mental health, but also being unsuccessful at it and suffering the consequences of that socially. It's like a double punishment almost. Whereas if you're high masking, you struggle with that, with your mental health because of that, but at least you're successful. To me, it sounds like at least your efforts are worth it somehow. I don't know. I don't know what it's like, so I can't speak for that, but I'm just really frustrated because I've been living in my little bubble of the online autistic community, which is amazing. Then I'm reminded that, you know, in real life, in the real world, it's different, and most people don't know anything about autism or what it actually looks like. Most of the time you just don't feel safe disclosing your diagnosis because you don't want to be met with, oh, but you don't look autistic, you're very different from my nephew, or whatever. Oh, so that means you have no empathy, you know? No one's ever told me these things, by the way. It's just I'm scared of that happening because I know it's happened to other people. I don't know, I just don't want to find myself in a situation where someone says that to me and I have to respond, because then I feel the need to educate them, but it costs me, and they might not be open to be educated, you know? It's just very difficult. It's very difficult. and that I don't want to be treated differently because I say I'm autistic, you know? Well, that video just took a turn. It got real negative real quickly. I'm still trying to figure it all out for myself. It's tricky. I don't really know how to handle that for now. Let me know in the comments if you've been in a similar situation or you have some advice. What would you do in a situation, for example, when I meet my landlord? Should I mask? Should I unmask? Should I disclose my diagnosis? Or like, should I disclose it only in certain circumstances? For example, should I go like, by the way, if I don't look you in the eye that much, don't take it personally, I'm just not comfortable with eye contact because I'm autistic? Or should I say something that doesn't involve autism, like I'm just a bit socially awkward, but then it feels like I'm hiding my autism and I like it's something shameful, but I'm not ashamed of it, I'm proud of it, and I want to, you know, I have all these inner conflicts. So let me know in the comments if you have any advice. If you've been in similar situations, how did you handle it? Did you disclose your diagnosis? Did you keep it to yourself? Do you have any tips? I guess any tips on how to unmask in a subtle way? I don't know. Like, I'm not ready for that, especially since I'm still in burnout and I struggle to mask even more when I'm in burnout. Alright, I have my third therapy session tomorrow. I'm gonna focus on the move in August and I'm gonna try looking after myself, and I hope that you do the same, and I hope that you're not dying with the heat where you are. Thanks for watching, liking, commenting, sharing and subscribing. I have a Ko-fi page down below in case you'd like to support my channel monetarily. I'll see you in my next video. Bye.